Now I said that learning Japanese was a marathon and not a sprint, and that's true, but now I've realised that learning Japanese is more like trying to get through an obstacle course. And every obstacle presents its own challenge.
And now he's got to face the kanji wall!
Like, there's so many steps you have to go through. There's no wonder they say it's one of the hardest languages to learn. And most people who start end up quitting.
Well, there goes another overly ambitious language learner. But will our next contestant have what it takes to become this year's Nihongo Warrior?
Damn, very few people overcome that kanji wall.
Yep, I just hope Dan knows what he's doing.
He does. Trust me, he knows the kanji. I taught him well.
He's coming on.
Oh god, I can't watch.
My name's Dan, I'm 29 years old, and I believe I have what it takes to become a Nihongo warrior. Since I decided to start learning Japanese, I've been documenting my experience through making these videos. And I didn't expect to be making another so soon after my last one. But here we are. And there's more of you watching now, there's a big audience out there. So I just wanted to give an update on where I'm at with things. You see, I firstly made a video in which I learnt the kana, and then I made a video in which I learnt kanji. And for the most part, it all got a good reception. However, it wasn't all positive.
Wait. If you're about to get emotional, let me know and we can cue the music.
Okay, sure. Well, I was just gonna say that some people said that I had wasted my time learning kanji in isolation.
Great, but can you say that again and try to look really upset about it? Maybe start crying just to get the people feeling sorry for you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk more about that later in this video. It's just... Sorry. It's just difficult for a beginner. You never know whether you're doing the right thing or not. And
Alright, that's enough. You're out in 5 minutes. Good luck.
Now, when you first begin learning Japanese, most people agree that you should start by learning Hiragana and then Katakana. So that's what I did.
Alright folks, let's see if he can clear the kana jump.
It's fair to say I was off to a good start.
Wow, he made that look easy.
That's not the part I'm worried about.
I learnt the kana in around 2 weeks, and then I was like, where do I go from here? You see, this is where things get a bit fuzzy, because there are multiple paths you can take. Many people suggest using Anki and working through a basic starter deck to learn new words, and that's what I was gonna do. But after reasons I explained in my last video, I decided to do that later, and instead take on the task of learning kanji. Yep, the kanji wall. The reason I refer to this as a wall is because for many learners that's what it feels like. Hiragana and Katakana are rather simple to learn and understand, at least in comparison, because each of them have 46 characters with one pronunciation, and once you memorise them, well, now you can technically read anything phonetically. It's quick, it's satisfying, and you feel like you're making progress. But then, it's only a matter of time before you meet kanji. Thousands of different symbols that don't behave like the ones you've just learned. Why? Well, because when it comes to kanji, each character carries a meaning and not just a sound, which also means that a lot of them have more than one reading. Some can have several, which changes depending on the word. Now, if this isn't enough to scare you, then perhaps the sheer quantity of them will, because there's 2,136 of them, and that's just what's on the official Joyo kanji list. Some kanji can look identical, some of them can have up to 20 plus strokes, and you can also combine them to create new words. So yeah, that nice smooth learning curve turns vertical, and that's why I call this a wall. At least it was for me. When I realised how much there was to learn, my first thought was, that's impossible. I thought I'd never be able to do it, but I did.
And he's going straight for that kanji wall.
In just over 90 days, I was able to learn the meanings of 2,200 kanji, and I also learned how to write them. I'm not gonna lie, it was difficult, and at times miserable, but I was determined.
He's not gonna make it.
He has to.
He will.
Every morning, I'd spend multiple hours on Anki doing my reviews and learning new kanji. And of course, having so many to get through was at first overwhelming, but each day I continued to show up. And slowly but surely, I managed to get through them.
Holy shit! He's done it!
Wow, I knew he'd do it.
You doubted him.
Nah, I didn't.
Incredible.
The kanji wall is tough, but you can get over it. And I've heard a lot of people say that kanji goes from being scary to one of their favourite parts of Japanese. And this is because kanji actually serves a purpose, right? It's not just there to be a pain in the ass. It actually speeds up reading and writing, along with improving general comprehension once you understand it. But perhaps I was too quick to celebrate. I might have made it to the top of this kanji wall, but that's not to say everyone was proud of me.
What the hell? He never even learned the readings. He doesn't know kanji.
This is a joke. A complete waste of time. He could have learned all that through learning actual words.
In just 90 days? That sounds like bullshit. I bet he just forgets them.
You can't avoid learning kanji, but you can choose how to learn it. Now, I learnt kanji in isolation through using a book called Remembering the Kanji by James Heisig, also known as RTK. Now, it's a rather well-known book and it's one that gets a lot of praise, but like everything when it comes to language learning, it also gets a lot of hate. Mostly because in doing RTK, you only learn meanings and not readings. You can recognize the kanji, you can write the kanji, but you can't read the kanji. You essentially learn kanji in isolation. There is zero vocabulary. But that's alright because the next challenge in front of me is the vocab dive.
He may have climbed the wall, but that only sets you up for the vocab dive.
That's right, boys and girls, it's time to dive back into that basic starter deck and begin learning some words. If you did watch my previous video, you'll know that I had started this deck prior to learning the kanji, and the reason I stopped was because of the kanji. I explained the reasons why in that video, but I eventually made the decision to learn kanji first with the intention of returning to this deck at a later date. And so now, here we are. I know the kana, I know the kanji, and I still don't know any Japanese words. So it was time to choose a starter deck. Now there's a few Anki decks people recommend for beginners, the most common being the core 2K 6K deck. And I was thinking of doing that one. That was until I heard about another deck called Kaishi 1.5K. Kaishi 1.5K is a basic Japanese vocabulary deck in the spirit of core 2K, but with additional features and better optimization. It's also meant to jumpstart your immersion, but more on that later. Now at the time of making this video, I'm still progressing through this deck, and I'm having a great time. Now that I'm familiar with kanji, it all seems more manageable. Some people said that doing RTK and learning the kanji in isolation was a waste of time, and I have to disagree. I mean, sure, I could have potentially spent that time doing something else that would have been more beneficial, but to say it was a waste of time suggests that there was no benefit in doing it at all. And that's simply not the case because now I'm having a much easier time with all of these words, and I'll explain why. So now when I'm presented with a new word that involves kanji, I usually know what that word means thanks to RTK. Even when I'm shown a word that involves multiple kanji, what are called compound words, the separate meanings of the kanji usually relate to the meaning of the word. Like a simple example would be the word for student, made up of the kanji for learn and the kanji for life. Or the word holiday, where we have the kanji for rest and the kanji for day. And so at the very least, this acts as a helpful cue when it comes to recalling all of these words. But of course, I still need to learn how to pronounce them. And by the way, I do get why some people say that isolated kanji study is not a good use of time, because I would have naturally learned a lot of the kanji through learning these words anyways. It's not a waste of time, but it might not be a good use of time. Alright.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
Before you leave any snarky comments. Right, I've got my stick. Now let's talk about some of the upsides and downsides of doing RTK and learning the kanji first. Let's begin with the upsides. 1. Kanji stops feeling overwhelming. RTK gives you a single English keyword per kanji, a way to recognise components, radicals, primitives, all that stuff, and some confidence when it comes to looking at Japanese text. You know, it stops looking like a wall of random symbols. 2. It makes later vocab learning a smoother process. As I explained, you're not just memorising words from zero, instead you are familiar with the kanji involved. 3. RTK teaches you how to recall and then write the kanji by hand. So if you want to learn how to write, this is a good place to start. Also, RTK's mnemonic approach is very effective. Right then, now for the downsides. 1. You kind of won't be learning actual Japanese for a long time. You know, RTK doesn't teach you the readings. 2. You'll have to relearn kanji through vocab anyways. And this is what I'm experiencing now. You're exposed to a lot of kanji when learning words through a vocab deck, and so whilst RTK gives you a foundation, you know, it's not the final step, and so many people feel that this is double the work. 3. It's a rather tiresome process that can lead to burnout. There's obviously a lot of kanji to get through, and it can be a real slog. And if you actually want to complete it within 3 months, you know, you're going to be spending multiple hours each day. And well, some people just don't have that time. So I guess it's up to you to decide whether it's worth doing it or not. Would I do it again? In retrospect, probably not. I'd have maybe tried to persevere with that vocab deck at the start, but you know, doing it served a purpose and also solved an issue for me, and so in that regard, it wasn't a complete waste of time. Also, I'm not in a rush. I'm not trying to finish the N1 in 1 year like some people. Also, it made for an interesting video, and also, this is why I'm making these videos and documenting my experience from a beginner's perspective. I'll go through the shit and then I can tell you whether the shit's worth going through. One of the main reasons I wanted to put out an update video like this is because now feels like the right moment to outline my steps and share some thoughts that have been on my mind.
Because he might have made it this far, but he's still got to overcome the grammar gap.
Now, alongside working through that vocab deck, I also want to begin learning more about grammar, because if learning new words is like collecting bricks, then grammar is what lets you piece them together. I don't know. But for someone like me stepping into that, well, it can all seem rather complicated.
Oh, now look who's doubting him.
Well, yeah, he's not trained for this.
And you can't underestimate the grammar gap.
The first thing that I decided to do was to figure out the best way to approach it. And I usually do this by seeing what the general consensus is by watching some YouTube videos and reading Reddit posts. But in doing this, it just left me more confused. And of course it did. We're talking about learning a language here. Nobody agrees on anything. Whenever there's one person suggesting something, there's always another person shooting them down. That being said, here are the most common, widely suggested resources for learning Japanese grammar. Genki. So Genki is probably the most recommended beginner textbook. You know, it's very popular. It offers a very structured, step-by-step introduction to Japanese and grammar, and there's a lot of exercises and dialogues. Tai Kim's Guide to Japanese Grammar. Tai Kim's Guide is a free self-study resource that gets a lot of praise for explaining grammar using Japanese logic rather than English translations. IMABI. IMABI is an extremely detailed online grammar reference designed to be comprehensive rather than beginner friendly, right? Like, honestly, it covers pretty much everything, which can be quite overwhelming. Bunpro. So Bunpro is a grammar-focused spaced repetition system which is meant to reinforce grammar points over time, similar to how Anki works. And I've seen a lot of people recommend this one, so I might have to have a look. Dolly. Dolly has a playlist on YouTube with videos that teaches grammar through a non-traditional framework. Like, I've seen many people say that her videos simplify a lot of what the textbooks seem to complicate. Migaku. I always assumed that Migaku was mainly a tool to help create flashcards whilst sentence mining, but I've also seen some people suggest their online courses which also uses a spaced repetition system. Now, in addition to all of this, some people suggest a immersion-first approach, where learners focus on consuming native Japanese without doing much actual grammar study. And the idea is that grammar is naturally acquired through exposure. But ultimately, from what I've seen, most learners end up mixing multiple approaches, right? They use those resources as a foundation, and then they reinforce what they learn through repeated exposure to real Japanese. Okay, so one thing is for sure, there are many ways to approach learning Japanese grammar. There's definitely not a lack of resources out there. At the moment as I'm making this video, I'm still figuring things out. I'll probably just check out most of what people recommend and then find what works best for me. I'm sure I'll be making some videos and discussing all of this as I get to it, but right now, as I look ahead and see what lies in front of me, I kind of feel more intimidated by grammar than I did with kanji. Like, I don't really know where or if...
Quick! Someone call an ambulance!
Hey, could you pass me the soy sauce? Hello? Dude. Soy sauce.
Sorry.
You gotta stop thinking about that grammar gap.
And I don't know why I froze like that.
Hey, look, it's in the past. You'll get it eventually.
Yeah, don't worry yourself. Besides, you know me. You know Katakana. And, well, you kinda know kanji.
Yeah, you're slowly learning my readings from going through that vocab deck.
Yeah, that's all going quite well. And I do get to see a lot of sentences.
Sentences, huh? I bet you've forgotten some of the kanji already, though.
Well, you can't blame him. You're complicated. But at least I can help through using Hiragana.
Oh, please. You're impossible to get rid of. He's probably fed up of seeing you.
Well, I'm sorry for being useful. You only show up for foreign stuff.
Hey, someone's got to do it.
Honestly, the two of you drag things on for way longer than they need to be.
Stop, alright? Stop arguing. I mean, this is why we need grammar. We all need to get along.
Well, she'll be here in a minute.
What?
Ask him. He invited her.
I was being polite.
Well, this is about to get interesting.
Alright, so it's probably going to be a while until I make my next update video because I have a lot to learn. There might be an opportunity to make some shorter videos like this along the way, but I've got to get my head down now and make some good progress. Also, I do really want to make some more videos unrelated to language learning, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. And yeah, until then, thanks for watching. Oh, and remember, the key to learning anything is to have fun along the way.